This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac, 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. I'm your reporter Stefan Andrusiak, and this is episode 288. Today, a story I recorded in Winnipeg. It's about two cousins and their funky response to sudden change. I have been a journalist most of my working life. It's a privilege every day to witness and to report what I have researched, experienced, or just stumbled upon. Nasha Kasha is all the more enjoyable because I'm able to explore my roots and to speak with others of all ages who live life remarkably. 300 stories, I thought, was a pretty good goal to aim for when I started out. That would grow to 6 years of volunteering, 18 radio stations, and a couple of thousand more listeners every week online. That number of episodes, 300, is drawing near, and it's probably time for me to do something else. I'll keep you posted, and thank you, Dorohi Slukhachi, for listening along the way. But enough about me. This show is only 28 minutes long, after all. I'm not leaving quite yet. 12 more episodes to go, so let's get to this week's story. There's a new term appearing in dictionaries as 2021 draws to a close. It's ghost kitchen. Merriam-Webster's website introduces it this way, quote, "The term ghost kitchen refers to an establishment that cooks and sells food to be delivered to a residence, but that unlike a restaurant doesn't have its own space for dining or pickup. Both the concept and the term saw expanded use during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, as restaurants were forced to close to indoor dining and gatherings in public spaces were being dissuaded." End of quote. Here's Ron Cahoot with Buria and a melody that's called Funky Bukovinian. I'm Stefan.
Hi.
Stefan Stefan.
Yeah.
My name is Nick Bielak.
Nick Bielak.
And Stefan Litwin.
And we're sitting at the German Club. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. The German Society of Winnipeg.
This is where Cosmo's Space Cowboy Food Cantina lives.
Stefan and I are both cousins. We grew up here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Yes, we've been cousins our whole lives. Yeah, both of we come from a very Ukrainian background. We, participated in, the folkloramas, and we were sumkivtsi, and we went to church together and have that whole background.
Tell me about the people who made you cousins.
Our Dida is from Chernivtsi, and our Baba, she was born here in Manitoba, up in Renware. And so they met after he moved to Canada after the Second World War. They met, I think, in Winnipeg, and 4 kids, and lived in central Winnipeg, and eventually moved out to Garden City. And our moms are sisters.
Tell me about the role of food in your family life as you were growing up.
The role of food is definitely very important. There is like a family farm that we have where we would all congregate together, and I can remember countless getting around the table together, or watching Guido make kapusta in the basement.
Is the farm still viable? Is it still in the family?
It's still in the family, yeah. It's definitely still there, and actually, Stefan has kind of picked up the garden part of it.
Last year, this happened at the beginning of COVID. As like a make-work project, all restaurants had closed. I, myself, am a chef by trade. Yeah, always very interested in growing my own food. And we have, big property with lots of land out there. And my Dido used to have his own little horod, and kind of had completely grown over in the last, 15 to 20 years or so from the last time that he actually planted something there.
A horod is a garden.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And so just cultivated it basically, and kind of got a little experimental with what we grew out there. Lots of different varieties of different things that maybe didn't necessarily work. What's growing there today that I'm using is kind of going back to the basics of what he would grow, which is cucumbers, cabbages, tomatoes, and, that kind of stuff.
Talk about locally sourced. This is family sourced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Мій дідусь любив часник. Він був міцний, як той бик. Часником він се лічив, 102 роки він прожив.
You're listening to Taras and Andrew Mazapa with Brendan Walsh. They are otherwise known as Burlaki, a band from Montreal, and the song is about a grandfather's love for garlic. Chasnik?
Yeah. Immediately before this, I worked at a restaurant called Deer and Almond in the Exchange District of Winnipeg. I was there for about 4.5 years. Before that, I helped start up a bar in Winnipeg on Sherbrooke Street called The Handsome Daughter. Never went to culinary school. Yeah, I was in university pursuing a degree in education, and in my 3rd year, I kind of decided to pivot.
And you took to the stage.
I started acting, doing those little plays in the church basement.
Name one.
Name one? Oh, Kozada Raza, probably. Most famously, I would say.
It's about a goat. Were you the goat?
No, I was the Vovk. I was the wolf. That's kind of where things started, and then it kind of just snowballed from there, and I just kind of had a real love and passion for it. And then, Yeah, eventually I went to the University of Winnipeg. I studied, got my honors degree in theater there, and a year out of university, I ended up on Broadway in the Book of Mormon. And then I had a...
Whoa. You slipped right from university to Broadway. How did you manage that?
You know, I just kind of, the opportunity came up, and it just became like kind of, it felt like it was a very long audition process. It felt more like a reality competition at times. And I just kind of one day found myself in New York City. It's just kind of one of those crazy things.
Who were you in the Book of Mormon?
I started off as the elder, the standby for Elder Cunningham, which is like an understudy. Did that in New York City for about 4 years, and then Australia in New Zealand for 3 years before coming back home to Canada.
Did COVID happen to your restaurant? Did COVID happen on stage? Is that why everything just kind of dropped dead, stood still?
Yeah, absolutely. Being in the restaurant industry, it was one of the first industries to have to completely shut down. The restaurant closed, and we all said goodbye to each other. Didn't know when the next time we would see each other. Everyone thought it would be, I'll see you in maybe 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. And then that 2 and 3 weeks went by real fast. And then next thing you know, it was 2 or 3 months. And then it was about 6 months before the restaurant even had a chance to reopen. And by that point, I had been working on this garden, had just a real moment, a lot of time just to myself to think, and thought it might be a good time, with this natural break, to take a chance on doing something else.
I could see that, something not so good happens to you, and then you just kind of withdraw, and you get that time to center yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and so Nick had moved home because of COVID as well, and so we were hanging out a lot, the most we had seen each other in years.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in New Zealand. We had just opened up the show in Auckland. We had our opening night that Thursday. On Monday, and my whole family was in New Zealand actually visiting. They came to our opening night. It was very exciting. And we had our...
Did you invite your cousin?
I did. He couldn't make it though. This is working. Yeah, and then so we got called back to the theater, and we were told that's it for performances. That's it for the run of this whole tour. It's all being canceled. We're sending you home. My life got flipped upside down. My plan for, the next couple of years, or whatever you want to call it, and like Stefan said, 2 weeks turned to 3 to 4, and I found myself back home in Canada, which was great at first, but as time went on, we were sort of sitting there being like, well, what's going on? We're not going to be able to I'm definitely not going to be able to get back to work anytime soon, and neither was Stefan. How do we take advantage of this opportunity? We'd always talked about wanting to do something together, culinary world. Anytime I was in New York and Stefan would come up, we would always go to restaurants together. We'd constantly be sending each other things about different foodie things. So that's kind of where our restaurant was born, from the ashes of COVID, I guess you could say.
So who came up with the idea?
I feel like we both kind of came up with it naturally. I listened to the David Chang podcast. He's a bit of a prognosticator of food trends, and had been talking a lot about the idea of ghost kitchens, something that he saw pop up in Asia during the H1N1 pandemic. He said, all these little kitchens just started popping up since you can't have in-house dining. Lots of places pivoted to just doing takeout food and really shaping their business model around that food that travels really well, really taking that into consideration. So we were listening to this podcast, and I was like, that's a really good idea, and I don't think there's really anything like that in Winnipeg. And so we kind of just started looking for a kitchen that had just enough to be able to put out the kind of food that you wanted to, but without any of the overhead or a dining room or anything like that. And that's how we settled on the German Society.
By food that travels well, do you mean that a meal that will survive a guy on a motorcycle for a delivery service bringing it to somebody's door? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So just taking into account that food is going to have to travel for half an hour, so something that's still going to be delicious, still going to maintain its texture and its integrity from the time that you make it to someone picking it up and for it being delivered. And so we tested a bunch of different places. We ordered food from a lot of different restaurants just to kind of see how it showed up and what kind of the pros and cons of everything. Then we started to devise our own menu.
Give me an example of something that survives that's actually a meal.
Sure. We just try to think everything from what is the guest experience at the other end. So if we were to get something, I mean, a big easy one to tackle was like any kind of potato, right? You get French fries and they come and they sweat and they get soggy. Here we do tater tots because they stay extra crispy, and I like hand hole punch every single box to make sure that they sweat so that when you get them, they stay crispy. So thinking about things in that sense. We also got our own custom fortune cookies and like that sort of thing. We tried to like create a dining experience and something that was going to be, you know, really fun and unique for customers to get food from us and give them sort of a nice alternative to just ordering from a McDonald's or something like that.
So can you give me one of the top items on your order list that people would go, yeah, tonight I crave this?
That would probably be our spicy fried chicken sandwich. It's like a crispy fried chicken or piece of chicken with our own like spicy powder that we developed. And it comes with slaw and poblano mayo and a cheddar cream cheese and pickled jalapenos. The chicken is extra crispy, and it manages to stay that way even after delivery. Yeah, that's really like our biggest seller, like 2-to-1 out of everything. And in the beginning, we really had, just because we're new, we kind of had a desire to maybe try new menu items and take menu items off and put new ones on, and it became very apparent early on that this sandwich was never going anywhere. It would be over.
Okay, Mom, Stefan did not mention your pickles, but I'm sure they're on a menu somewhere.
Those pickles? No, those ones, because they're Babandito's recipe. They're like crunchy dill pickles. They haven't made it onto a menu yet. Those are just for home.
Посіяла огірочки близько над водою, поливала огірочки дрібною сльозою.
Nasha Kasha comes to you from Radio Western 94.9 FM on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on Local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in Saint Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CJAM 99.1 FM in Windsor and Detroit, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UMFM in Winnipeg, on CJTR 91.3 FM in Regina, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM in Kamloops, on CJSF 90.1 FM in Vancouver, and on CHLY 101.7 FM in Nanaimo, British Columbia. We're at the German Club.
Yeah.
You rent the kitchen here, so what? You get a countertop, a fridge, maybe a freezer, a stove, and you're set?
As time goes on, that equipment list has like grown and grown and grown. But, basically, we try to be as efficient as possible. That's sort of like our motto.
Does the ladies' committee of the German Society know that you're using their kitchen?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, when we were in the thick of COVID, we wouldn't really see anyone. So it was just like a lot of texts and that sort of thing. Just trying to manage being in here, but yeah, I think they're well aware that we're in there and we have a little rock and roll kitchen going on. Yeah.
So I want to ask about permanence. What if the rent goes up? What if they go, well, we have an event planned. I'm sorry, you can't be here.
Unfortunately, the sad truth of the situation is that there really aren't any events going on, and any events that are happening right now, it's kind of hard to get people out to. So in that way, us being here and the permanence of us being here has not really been affected. But now that things are starting to open up and restaurants are being populated again, the possibility of running a ghost kitchen to the success that we have so far, we might start looking for a place of our own.
I have a hunch that spicy chicken sandwiches will be on the menu at Oktoberfest at a time very soon.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, like a spicy chicken schnitzel or something.
There's a compromise.
We're here because we're here. We've come to drink some beer. So round us up some cheer. We'll have another beer. Up above there is no beer, 'cause we've got it all down here. The next time we are near, we'll come and drink your beer.
From the album 24 Greatest Hits by Walter Ostanek, the Oktoberfest Polka.
The other aspect, the other side of the ghost kitchen world is that a lot of these kitchens are going into buildings, community centers, churches even, that otherwise wouldn't be getting any sort of revenue at all. So you kind of see that around Winnipeg and North America, that the hall won't be generating any revenue itself in the way that it normally does, but at least there's someone there renting the kitchen and bringing in money that way.
What happens if you get a call and the mayor of Auckland says, "Come back, Book of Mormon, come back"?
You know what? I think I've made my peace with that. I'm kind of very driven and passionate about what we're doing right now. And I mean, 8 years is a long time to be singing and dancing in the same show. I mean, I love it.
But it's a great show.
Oh, yeah. It's the best. It's the best. It was such an amazing time in my life. And I do miss being on stage. And I'll get there again one day. But in the meantime, I really want to see this through. And it's just been so fun and exciting and creative. And it's nice to be doing something back home in Winnipeg, actually.
Is there a line from the play that stands out in your mind and you carry it forward in life?
I mean, if there was one, the most iconic one would be, I believe. I'm like, do I carry that forward? I try to, I think. Yeah. Or maybe man up, especially through the last 2 years, trying to get us through, for sure.
The whole endeavor has really been a really awesome creative experience. For the first time, there was no strings attached, no one really overhead. We kind of had carte blanche to do whatever we wanted, and we got to try a lot of different things, and we got to immediately see the results, whether those strategies worked or not. And from, writing silly messages on the bags to coming up with a different sandwich feature every single week, it was a really great creative experience as well.
Before I forget, why did you come up with the name Cosmos with a K?
When we were looking for a name for our restaurant, we were trying to think of what would be sort of the most sort of like iconic restaurant name that would feel like a neighborhood place that's been around for 50 plus years. And so when we wrote into the name registry for Cosmos, they came back and said, like, could you please be more specific about your business? We were just being cheeky, and I was like, how specific? How about this? How about Cosmos Space Cowboy Food Cantina? Yeah, and it just kind of like was dumb and fun enough. It sort of, is another way to kind of show our personality to people. And we thought it'd be a bit of a showstopper too. If you were scrolling through an app and saw that, you'd be like, oh, okay, what is that?
Well, brands are so important. I noticed that your cousin ordered himself a cap with Cosmos on it, but you have to wear your tuna ball cap. What, you only ordered one?
No, we got a whole bunch of them here, actually, that are available for purchase.
How much?
They're $25.
We have no commercials on this show. However, they're really nice guys. Anything you want to say I didn't ask you about? This is...
No, just that it's been like a really amazing creative endeavor, like Stefan said, through COVID call it a pivot, but the silver lining here is being able to get to do something with my best friend, family member, to be back in Winnipeg and to pursue a dream that we both had. That it's been amazing that I've gotten to do so much already in my life. I kind of got to check that box of being on Broadway. I've always wanted to do that, since the time I was a kid. And as we move forward, just the amount of growth I think both of us have had in this last 2 years, it's been really exciting, and I can't wait to see what we do next, actually.
Such young men and so much wisdom. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, Дякую тобі.
Дякую. Thanks.
Earlier in the program, you heard a snippet of the melody Turn It Off. It's from the musical The Book of Mormon, and it's performed by pianist David Plumpton. And this is the melody Silhouette, played by its composer Evan Wish. Nasha Kasha is also a podcast. There's an easy way to access it. Go to nashakasha.libsyn.com. Nasha Kasha is one word. Libsyn is spelled Libsyn.com. nashakasha.libsyn.com. New Pathway Ukrainian News delivers news and insight every week in English and Ukrainian. Subscribe today at newpathway.ca. Partial funding for Nasha Kasha comes from the Taras Shevchenko Foundation and the Ukrainian Credit Union. I'm your reporter Stefan Andrusyak. Back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.